where I talked about why you should go to indie bookstores, I kind of mentioned doing a video like that, but talking about libraries, what you can use them for, and I did the thing where I mispronounced library, but who cares? What you can use them for, all the kind of resources they have, and why you should support them, so that's what this video is. So for starters, I want to get into what exactly you can go to the library and do, what you can use. There's a lot of things that libraries have that I don't think people realize, that they're not as widely talked about, as of course you can go there to check out books. You can also use it as free access to educational tools. Yes, books themselves are educational tools, but there's also a lot of times free Wi-Fi. There are computers where you can do research. It has historical archives with a lot of information that you can access generally outside of the library. And I think right now it is very important to stay educated. I think education is a powerful weapon and is often gate-kept, so something like a library where you can get those free resources to educate yourself is something that I would highly recommend. Something else that I think is very important right now, especially in places like the United States, is community. I wish the United States was a little bit better about building community, but libraries are pretty good about that and having community nights. Not necessarily nights, I meant community events, but some of those things are like craft nights, or like, I think sometimes they have game nights. There are book clubs. There are specific events for children. If you need some kind of like after school event for your kids, they tend to have stuff like that at libraries. They also have summer reading programs, so your kids can do stuff over the summer and continue their learn and continue to learn and continue, see, because I was going to say continue their education, but to continue honing their media literacy skills, critical thinking skills, their imagination, because reading is good for all of those things. And sometimes they also have like summer camps at libraries. There's something, of course, a lot of these things are very specific from library to library, but this is, you know, just kind of me telling you that some things some libraries have, so that can encourage you to go check out your own library and see if they have these events or different events. A lot of libraries have STEM activities for, like I said, they have these events for the kids, they have some summer programs and that kind of stuff to teach them about technology, but there's entirely a possibility that I just simply did not like the way that I worded that, because I meant to say there's an entire possibility, which entirely a possibility, I guess, you know, does the same thing, you get the gist, but it's entirely possible that they have those classes for adults as well that might not be keeping up with the technology trends and the new innovations and advancements in technology. So that's a place where you can learn about that, again, with the educational resources. They have a lot of stuff in STEM, and they have a lot of, you know, educational resources in general, so a library is a good place to help you kind of learn a little bit more about technology, even though I would say it's like a good start for sure, because I don't want to sit here and be like, libraries have like all the newest technology. Oftentimes they don't, because of things I will get into later in this video, funding especially, but just like, you're not gonna have like Adobe Creative Cloud because that's expensive. I don't know, I mean, a library might. Some other resources the library has that aren't talked about as much as books. As I already said, they have computers. You can check out more than just books. DVDs, CDs, magazines, audiobooks, like all that different kind of stuff. They also oftentimes have apps, which I could probably do a whole separate video on apps, so I'm going to do a more concise version. So there's 3 library apps that I'm aware of that I have used: Libby, BorrowBox, and Hoopla. So Libby and BorrowBox are similar in the sense that in all these apps, you put in your library card, so it connects you to like your local library. So it really depends on what your local library uses, but I think majority of local libraries are connected to some app. So there could be an app outside of these ones that they use, but the ones that I know of. Libby and BorrowBox do a similar thing where you can put a book on hold. It might already be ready. On BorrowBox, they tell you exactly when it'll be ready. Some of them will tell you that they're available in that moment for you to borrow. Libby, it tells you that certain amount of people are waiting for it and it is on hold, and then once you put it on hold, it gives you like an estimate on like how long it'll be until you get that off of hold, but it's not the same as BorrowBox, which gives you the exact date. They are just similar in the ways that you are oftentimes putting books on hold and waiting to get them. With Hoopla, all books you can read right away. Any book that you see on Hoopla, you can download and read right away. These apps also, Hoopla especially, Libby and BorrowBox, they can have magazines, comics, that kind of stuff. Hoopla also has CDs, TV shows, movies, that kind of stuff for you to like consume digitally. They also all have audiobooks as well. I have to double check on Hoopla having audiobooks, but I do know Libby and BorrowBox definitely have audiobooks. And like I've already said, most of these resources, library resources, are free to use. Oftentimes they also have printers, that kind of stuff. I see a lot of times at my local library people using the computers to work on school project, work projects, use their printers, do research, that kind of stuff. So very, very helpful in that regard. And like I said, all you need is a library card, which are free. So I have had a library card since I was a child. I've never paid for one. I've had them from multiple different libraries. All I've done is gone in as an adult. I give them my ID. I, show them my address, like that kind of stuff, and I get a library card. And then with the library card, I can then use that to use these free resources. I can put it in the apps that I mentioned, and getting these library cards, using the library resources helps these libraries get more, can help these libraries get more funding, because it is showing that they are needed, that they are being used. So I highly, highly, highly recommend even just going and getting the free library card and then checking out the resources that you can use at your local library. Even if you go get the library card and then you never go to the library again because you use these apps instead, it is still helpful because you are showing that they need to have the funding and the resources to be able to supply these apps to people. In the US, libraries are government funded, usually local government, but sometimes they also get federal funding. And the reason why I said like most resources, most events are free, because sometimes they may have ticketed events in order to help raise money for the library. They may have like donation events. Libraries do have donors as well, because government funding often can't foot the bill. However, I am going to read this. According to candid.org, 90% of library funding comes from local government. But if libraries want to be able to provide more for their community, they often have to have donors, and sometimes they do funded events. I don't think that's a very common thing, something that happens very often. I have not witnessed that at my local library. I have a bit more in the States, less so in the UK. I'm reading more about the States though, because I on this one specifically, whereas in my indie bookstore video I talked about both the States and the UK, I'm focusing more on the States because government funding for things like the library, especially right now, is not something that I think can be heavily relied on. And sorry, there's like a gap that I'm seeing in the viewfinder that I'm not liking. That being said, I think especially when this is a time where they don't want you to be educated, they don't want you to use your resources, and they're banning books and like anything that disagrees with their views politically and that kind of stuff. It's wrong. I'm just gonna say it's like blatantly wrong, and it's disheartening, and it's something that I really hate to see. So that's why I'm kind of like focusing on the States with this, because I mean there's a lot going on in the US right now. I think everything with ICE, I would like to just say, obviously I am against what is happening. I am not for these killings and mass deportations, and just everything going on is so disheartening and hard to see, and I wish I could do more. I did make a post about how like I'm in the UK right now, I'm very like distanced from it, but obviously like people are being murdered, people are being straight up murdered, and like everything that's happening is so just disgusting and not at all like, I just don't understand how you could support this. It's really hard to speak about too. It's hard to be like well-spoken and speak eloquently when it is so just disgusting. But the reason why I'm adding that to this and why I'm like focusing on the States is because like the things that I mentioned being important, the resources and like educating yourself on stuff, like educate yourself on what is happening and educate yourself on like fascism and that kind of stuff. And I keep pausing because I want to make sure that I am coming across how I want to come across, and like it's a very like I said, it's a very hard situation to talk about because it's just so disgusting. I don't know like what else I can say about it. I also want to make it clear that I'm not like, oh, it's hard to talk about because I'm trying to like toe the line, ride the fence, stay in the middle. No, I'm very against ICE and I'm very against what's happening. I just was having a hard time like articulating my thoughts in a way that was very concise and well spoken, because as I said, it's just such a disgusting situation and I think there's so much to be said about it, and I'll get into it a bit more, but I think at this point, I, being as distant as I am, would rather amplify other voices and like call to actions and that kind of stuff. And I would rather honestly amplify other voices and like share resources, so I'm going to do that in the description of this video. But especially since I am like so distant from it and it's not something that's like gonna affect me personally, but it's still, you know, another reason why I said like community is really important is because it's so important to be there for each other right now and to like protect your neighbors and that kind of stuff. Like do everything we can. Which I said I can't really do much from where I am, but other than use my platform and my voice and to share resources. So that's what I'm gonna do. But that was just a little sidebar that I really felt it important to talk about. I also, in my script at the end, I did put that it's not only important to continue to use these resources to continue to show that your library is important to you, that having access to these educational resources and just these resources in general is important to you. I also, you know, want to urge people to continue to vote when these elections come around, to try to vote for people who are going to make sure that people still have access to these resources and care about their community. But yeah, in general, in the current political climate, especially in the States, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and you know, sign petitions, do what you can, be safe out there when you're protesting, and, you know, any call to actions, call your senators, do whatever you can, because it's honestly, it's horrifying. It shouldn't be happening, and I just wanted to kind of sprinkle that in there. I did already kind of make a post about this, but I just wanted to say that I'm gonna have some like resources on Minneapolis and just things you can do in general, because it's just not okay. It's just simply point blank period not okay. So that's kind of a very low note to end this on, but it had to be said. So yeah, that's all for this video, and I will see you in a week. Bye! Oh. Hiya! So in my video where I talked about... hello?